Hello my trainer friends, Pokemonty here. In today's video we're looking at a strong Master League team I had pretty decent success with. It features Rhyperior on the lead with Dialga Origin and Dawnwings Necrozma in the back. This is a sort of ABA team, weak to ground. So if you encounter a Landorus on the lead, you're going to have a tough time. Other than that, you can, in most circumstances, play your way through other negative leads. This team also works well to get shields down for Dawnwings to land some fun Moongeist beams. Between running a few other different teams towards the end of Master League rotation, I went 8-2 with this particular team over the course of the final 2 days. So let's get this video started. Let's jump into our first match. We lead into Zacian. So Zacian can be a tricky Pokemon to deal with, and they actually swap out of that, so that would probably be an indicator of non-close combat. They come in with Yveltal. I'm going to farm up to the Rock Wrecker, and I'm going to bait with a Breaking Swipe. And I grab a shield, which is excellent. Now I really don't have an answer to Yveltal, so I'm pretty much forced to stay in this situation. So I'm going to farm up again, and I should have probably threw the Rock Wrecker one Mud Slap before there, because I played with CMP tie and I do not win that. They hit me with the Dark Pulse, I shield. I'm going to fire back with the Rock Wrecker. They use the final shield. Now it's a race. Can I get to the Rock Wrecker? And I can. This will knock Yveltal out of the skies. Now we're going to see what the opponent decides to do. I queue up the switch right into Dawnwings. Opponent brings in Zacian, farms up a few quick attacks. They bring in Zekrom, but they stayed in with Zacian too long. That allows me to get to a Moongeist Beam. This is going to one-shot Zekrom. There is no way he survives this. Get that Zekrom off my screen. They bring back in Zacian, farming up. Now right here, I could have probably made the Moongeist Beam, but I just wanted to throw a Dark Pulse. I wanted to guarantee some damage. So it's going to land. Not very effective damage, but it's still damage nonetheless. Zacian continuing to farm allowed me to get to a second Dark Pulse, and at this point the match is over. This is going to do too much damage. It's going to get them deep into the red. That was a CMP tie too. Zacian is going to be able to knock out Dawnwings here. I'm going to bring in Rhyperior to force their hand. They'll probably go for the close combat. They did actually have close combat. Interesting, but I bring in Dialga, farm them down, and that is the game. Next match, Rhyperior into Duskmane. Now, this is a situation where the opponent actually stays in. I am doing super effective damage here. Now, if they full send the Sunsteel Strike here, I can shield once and completely farm them down, as long as they're not on Iron Head. They full send the Sunsteel, and guess what? I get a full farm down. We're going to see what the opponent decides to do now. They bring in Primarina, Waterfall Primarina. I am taking super effective damage from this, but I want to get the Rock Wrecker off. I throw my first, they shield. I throw a second, another Waterfall goes through. Oh, those hurt so bad. But I want guaranteed damage. They use both shields. Now this is whenever Dawnwings can shine. Dawnwings continuing to farm up. Primarinas go throw some energy, and I am going to no shield this. Ends up being a Moonblast. That smacks Dawnwings. In comes Ho-Oh, gets the Incinerate through. I'm firing back with the Moongeist Beam. Let's do some damage. Moongeist Beam smacks Ho-Oh. The only issue is Ho-Oh is going to get a complete farm down. So this situation, I bring in Rhyperior. They are never going to be able to farm me down before I get to a move. That basically forces the opponent to throw energy here. And that also is going to allow my Dialga to completely farm down with only taking one Incinerate. The opponent brings back in Primarina and up a shield. That is a win. GG's. Okay, let's jump into the next match. We lead into Apex Ho-Oh. Now, this is a wonderful lead, unless they're on Solar Beam, and we'll explain that later in the video. Ho-Oh is continuing to farm up, and they actually only farmed a 3, so this is a Brave Bird, and they'll probably dip out. I immediately queue up the switch into Dialga, and they bring in Palkia. Now, Dialga can win all even shielding scenarios with Palkia. I am going to let this go because I don't believe it was enough for Spatial Rend, and it was not. It was just an Aqua Tail. Now here, this was a CMP tie. I undercharged the heck out of this. Can I farm down before the next Aqua Tail is reached? And I can. Now the question is, can I outpace Ho-Oh before he gets the full farm down? I'm trying to make the Roar of Time, and I make it. So this will guarantee either the first shield or a knockout. See what the opponent decides to do. They do shield, so I bring back in Rhyperior. Opponent throws instantly. I am going to shield the Rhyperior because I'm getting a little bit low. They go for a Sacred Fire, so that means they are not on Solar Beam. I'm going to return fire with the Rock Wrecker. They do shield that. Ho-Oh is going to throw their energy here. It's going to be the Brave Bird. Another Brave Bird and dip. They bring in Zacian. So I am going to throw the Rock Wrecker here to do some massive damage to Zacian. And I'm not going to switch out. I'm going to stay in. This will force them to knock me out. They're going to go for the Play Rough. Knocks me out. I bring in Dawnwings. Now I'm going to farm up, trying to make it to the Dark Pulse. They will get a move off. Now this will be the Wild Charge. It will do a decent chunk of damage. Now I probably could have farmed down, but the thing was I honestly lost track of the counts. I didn't want to risk it. I knew Ho-Oh was dry. They were 3 Incinerates away, and I knew I could outpace. So on the 3rd Incinerate, I make the Dark Pulse. This will KO Ho-Oh, and that will take the game. GG's. Let's queue up our next match. We're going to lead our Rhyperior into Yveltal. Okay, so Yveltal, like I said before, is a very problem Pokemon for this team to deal with. Now, you will never win even shielding scenarios with Yveltal unless you can get a bait shielded, which I just do there. They actually shield the Breaking Swipe because I farmed up to the Rock Wrecker. I am going to match shields with them. And now this is where it gets dicey. I'm going for a second bait. Is the opponent going to call it this time, or am I going to get second shield? They actually double shield the Yveltal. I'm going to farm up to the Rock Wrecker. Yveltal will throw their energy. I'm actually going to use my final shield too. I'm going to wait the turn to make sure they don't catch, and this Rock Wrecker will knock them out. So that is how you really have to play an Yveltal lead. They're going to go into Primarina, and I immediately make the switch into Dialga. Now shields are down, so I am going to fire off the Iron Head here. This will do a nice sizable chunk of damage. They're going to continue to farm up, and they throw their move. It will be the Disarming Voice. It doesn't quite knock me out, but they can get the farm down. But here is where Dawnwing shines again. Shields down. I'm going to weigh out my switch timer. I'm going to bring in Dawnwings. I'm looking for that farm down. They switch into Ho-Oh. I am going to farm up to the Moongeist Beam when they get to 3 Incinerates. I don't know if they're going to try just to Brave Bird me to get rid of me, so I switch into Rhyperior. But again, this is a situation where they'll never be able to farm me down before I make a move, so they are forced to throw energy here. They go for the Sacred Fire, and that is the undercharge of the century. That's a very smart play by my opponent, but I am not going to let them incinerate me down. I fire out the Breaking Swipe, that KOs. I get some valuable Mud Slap damage on Primarina, and I farm down with Dawnwings. That is the game. GG's. Okay, hopping into the next match. We lead into Ho-Oh again. I'll tell you what, Ho-Oh is actually one of my favorite Pokemon, so I love seeing this Firebird anyway. They're going to fire off another Brave Bird here because that was only 3, and they're going to dip out yet again. So I am going to queue up my switch into Dialga. When they swap out, they go into Primarina. So I am going to fire off my Iron Head here, and we'll see if the opponent decides to shield or not. They don't. Again, that does a sizable chunk of damage. This is Waterfall Primarina, so the Waterfalls are resistant to Dialga, which is nice because Primarina is not on Charm. They hit me with a Moonblast, but now watch this. I have the Iron Head to knock Primarina out, but this is a choice not to. I want farm, and I want it on Dawnwings. They know that. They immediately switch out. They go back into Ho-Oh. I queue back into Rhyperior, and I am looking to connect with the Rock Wrecker. I get the first shield match. I get a Mud Slap through. I am going to match shields yet again. They go for a Sacred Fire. I'm going to farm up 3 to beat them to their next move. I'm going to fire off another Rock Wrecker here, and this will grab their final shield. I'm going to farm up again, and here I decide not to shield. I'm going to let this go. I know my Dawnwings has some residual energy. They queue into an altered Dialga. Well, this poor altered Dialga, we're not going to be able to enjoy seeing this one too much because it's going to get hit with the Moongeist Beam, and after a few Shadow Claws, it's gone. That was enjoyable. Oh, I hated that thing in previous seasons. So I'm going to fire off another Moongeist Beam, knock out Ho-Oh, and I'm just going to farm down Primarina. GG's. Okay, next match. We are going to lead into Xerneas. Now, Xerneas does have access to close combat, and that will be a major problem for Rhyperior and Dialga. So we're going to farm up here, and I'm going to throw the Rock Wrecker. I know they're very close to back-to-back close combats. They actually shield the Rock Wrecker. I get a Mud Slap through, and we're going to see what they're deciding to do here. They're going to throw it, and it is a close combat. I am going to no-shield that. Now, they're going to go for a second close combat, and I'm sure they're going to dip out of this matchup here. They go into their own Rhyperior. I at least want some damage on this Rhyperior before I switch out, so I'm going to go ahead and throw the Rock Wrecker. It is a resistant move, but it does do a little chunk of damage. Now, I'm going to bring in Dawn Wings. I'm going to farm up. Are they going to bait me, or are they going to full send the Rock Wrecker? I no shield, and of course, they full send the Rock Wrecker. That does a huge amount of damage to Dawn Wings. I'm going to look to pick up the knockout here with the Dark Pulse. I immediately switch into Dialga. They bring in Kyogre. They throw a bunch of resistant waterfalls, probably because they're still switch locked. They bring back in Xerneas. They're 4 away from the close combat. I'm going to CMP tie them with my Iron Head. This will grab the final shield. And now I am going to shield back. And can I make the Iron Head before they get to their next move? They're 3 away from the close combat. 1, 2, 3, and Dialga makes the Iron Head. You beautiful beast. So this will KO Xerneas. All that's left is Kyogre. They're staying in. In my mind, I start thinking, are they running Blizzard? What's going on here? Can Dialga survive this? And it ends up being a resistant Thunder. The opponent realizes the match is concluded. GG's. Okay, let's jump into this match here. And we lead into Tapu Bulu, my arch nemesis of this team. I cannot stand this Pokemon. So we're going to actually stay in here. And of course I'm going to shield this. This will be a Grass Knot. This will easily KO Rhyperior if I don't. So I'm going to farm up here a little bit more. And now he's at the second Grass Knot right now. I am going to fire a Breaking Swipe bait. We can't grab the shield. We do. I immediately switch into Dialga, hoping to catch the Grass Knot. Opponent does not fall for that. They do get an attack drop, so this Nature's Madness isn't going to do nearly as much. But then they bring in Ho-Oh. And now this is going to be an issue. If they shield this move, they can farm me the whole way down and lead with so much energy. And they shield it, and Dialga is going to get farmed down. Remember earlier in the video when I was talking about the possibility of Solar Beam being on Ho-Oh? Well, this one does have Solar Beam. Completely destroys Rhyperior. I bring in Dawn Wings. And the opponent is staying in here. They're going to throw some energy. I have to shield this. They go for a Sacred Fire. They bring in Bulu. And now shields are down. I'm thinking, do I have a chance here in this game? I'm going to go ahead and throw the Moongeist, knock out Bulu. In comes Yveltal. And I immediately resign the match. GG's. Hopping into the final match, we lead into Enamorus, another Pokemon that has access to Grass Knot. I am going to stay in here. I'm going to farm up, and they're going to throw their move immediately, and this will assuredly be the Grass Knot. I have to shield that. I'm going to farm up as much as I can here, and I am going for a bait. We'll see if we cannot get a shield back. We do. I immediately swap into Dialga and catch the move. Did I catch the Grass Knot? Ends up being a Fly, which is still fine. It's a not very effective move. And they bring in Ho-Oh. Now, they swapped out early enough where they're going to make it to a Sacred Fire. I am not willing to give up my final shield. I'm actually going to let the Dialga go. And I bring in Rhyperior. I know more than likely now they are not on Solar Beam. So I am going to let it go. It ends up being the Brave Bird. I'm going to farm up as much as I can to back-to-back Rock Wreckers. I'm going to throw my Rock Wrecker here. The opponent knows they can't shield because now I'll just knock out the second move. I just blind throw the Rock Wrecker because, I mean, it's still a Rock Wrecker. It's going to hurt no matter what Pokemon comes in. They catch on the Palkia. They immediately switch back into Enamorus. And now I have Dawn Wings. So I'm going to let this move through. Ends up being the Fly. And I see one win con. And that is a complete farm down. They're going to throw their second move here. I am going to shield this. And I should be able to get the farm down. And I do. I lead with back-to-back Dark Pulses. I'm going to throw my first Dark Pulse. This will more than likely grab the shield. It does. I throw one Shadow Claw. and I throw my second Dark Pulse. Now, will this KO? This is going to be very, very close. It doesn't KO, but I get the Shadow Claw farm down, and we take that game. GG's. As you can see overall, this team performed extremely well. Some matchups will require shielded baits to be able to flip them, but all in all, if you're looking to climb ranks, I definitely would recommend this team. Most of my battles occurred in the 2400 ELO range on the doorstep of Veteran, and I was seeing a lot of Ho-Oh leads. They were literally everywhere. Like I said in the video, you will have to be mindful of the possible Solar Beam. So if they stay in, shield your move, and farm up 4 Incinerates, it would probably be wise to invest the shield back. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. If you're enjoying the content, subscribe and like this video, and I will see you guys next time. Pokemon T out.